First, I wanted to give everybody a warm welcome to our latest AI Edge webinar presented by Lena AI. Today is part of our educational series, primarily for IT leaders and IT professionals. I'm Gary Benmark. I run marketing at Lena AI. As you can see, I'm speaking from the Atlanta airport. And today we're talking about this huge potential opportunity in the world of AI agents with the topic of the CIO guide to agent-to-agent interoperability and MCP. I'm proud to be joined by a resident AI expert, who's also the co-founder and CTO of Lena AI. That's Anand Prajapati, who is as passionate about this topic as it gets. Hey, Anand, where are you joining us from today?
Hello, everyone. Today I'm joining from Chicago. I'm here on a short trip, but this is an interesting opportunity, a very transformational topic, but at the same time, it's quite confusing. So couldn't miss a chance to talk about this. I'm pretty excited to be here.
All right. So before we dive in, just some housekeeping. We're starting on time. We'll also end on time. We're happy to take questions as we go through the material. Feel free to send them in the Q&A box or any comments, of course, as we move along. We'll also run a couple of live polls to understand where people are at in their journeys. We're happy to share the slides, so don't worry if you miss a detail. No need to take notes during the session. We'll cover after this brief introduction. We'll cover the interoperability world. What's A2A, what's MCP, what's the future, how much of it is a fad versus how much is going to be with us for a while. What does it mean for the enterprise? What does it mean for developers? And how should people think about the roadmap for agentic AI in light of MCP and A2A? And then we'll get into the Q&A. All right. Anand, Lena, why should people even care to listen to us?
Yeah, so let me give a brief about what we do and then set the context. So Lena AI is an agentic AI for enterprise that helps in reducing HR, IT, finance tickets. We do this by integrating with knowledge sources and the external systems like HRMS, ITSM, attendance, payroll systems. So when a user sends a query, we orchestrate across these systems and fulfill by using AI. We have been doing this since 2018, much before Gen AI was even a concept, right? And we were recognized by Gartner as a leader in the emerging market quadrant twice in a row. So yeah, that's we have been in this space for quite some time.
And I guess, Anand, you know what you're talking about when it comes to these concepts. All right. So after this introduction, let's just see where our audience stands. Folks, if you could pick one of these 5 choices to describe how familiar you are with interoperability, A2A, and MCP. Are you a complete novice, fairly new to me? I'm going up a learning curve, getting the hang of it, or I'm an expert on the topic? Let folks we'll give folks a few seconds to pick a choice. All right. Looks like interesting. 14% a complete novice. 43%. It's fairly new to me. 29%. I'm going up a learning curve. All right. This, I think, kind of sets the stage, kind of sets the bar for the level at which we're going to be presenting today. So, Anand, take it away.
Thanks for setting the context, Gadi. So even before we get into the interoperability or MCP or A2A, let's look at the quick overview of where we are with respect to AI evolution and why these things matter to us. Why should anyone care? Why they were created in the first place? So, if you look at the current AI wave, it started when with the launch of ChatGPT, and since then we have seen so many large language models every month. This is a fast-moving space. We have seen so many applications that are wrapper over these LLMs. We have seen Claude, Gemini, GPT-4, Mistral, Llama, all of these LLMs. And as a consumer, it has been very helpful because I can just quickly go on and access any of these LLMs. The way I have been building applications, doing research, generating content, it has drastically changed. But if you notice, when they were initially launched, the knowledge of these LLMs was limited to the training data that it had exposure to. So there was no way you could uh, ground it in your company knowledge or connect it to external systems, both of which are required for increasing the utility of any LLM. Well, technically, that's not true because you could pass data. So let's say if you're talking to GPT or Gemini, you could pass any knowledge, custom knowledge that you want to provide as part of the query or the prompt itself. But at the same time, it's complicated. You will not be able to fit in a lot of information, and you will have to do a lot of prompt tweaking, none of which is practical if you are not, your core business is not building AI applications, right? You just want to leverage them to increase your day-to-day productivity and utilize them for doing this faster, right? So the utility of these LLMs was capped by their ability to ingest external knowledge at the same time integrate with external systems. So that led to birth of something called RAG, retrieval augmented generation, which gave the capability to LLMs so that they could be given an external knowledge source, and they use that to ground their knowledge. So whatever response the LLM is giving, you could customize that by giving it a set of documents or knowledge sources via RAG. But that alone was not enough because it still lacked the ability to execute actions. What I mean by that is, let's say, if as an employee, I have a problem with my laptop is running slow. I mean, there will be some kind of SOP that will guide what kind of things might make the laptop slow. It might be uh, uh, disk space, it might be disk defragmentation, or software that is hogging all the CPU and memory. Now, some of them, most of them actually, in this case, require an integration on the system. So if I want to fix this problem of my system slowness, the AI should be, or the agent should be able to execute those actions on my device, which was not possible, right? Well, again, technically, just like knowledge, you could do this by putting all of this in prompt. But again, that will require you to spend a lot of time in tweaking the LLM, building the prompt, none of which is core to your business. So overall, the utility was capped, and that led to the birth of something called tool call. A tool call is a standard way for an LLM to access an external system's action. So let's say a user wants to check their time of balance, which is residing in Workday. Workday is exposing this functionality in the form of API, right? So a tool call will basically be hitting this API and pulling this information and showing it back to the user. Again, this is something which was always possible, but it was difficult to do because it could be Workday, it could be ADP, it could be Oracle. This information could be in a database, and all of these systems speak different language. You have APIs, you have databases, you could have a custom in-house function, you could have a custom portal, and you have to figure out how to integrate with all of them, figure out what language the AI is speaking and bridge that. The glue between the language system speaks and the AI was something that was completely left to the consumer of the LLM, which was not right. And that led to the birth of MCP. What MCP essentially does is it increases those tool calls from, let's say, 2 to 50. So let's say that you have time of balance application and time of balance check or in Workday. And that's something, those are two tool calls. Now, you could, let's say if exists an MCP server that allows you to access another system, some homegrown leave management system Then you could connect that MCP to your existing agent, and now it will have access to 50 different tool calls without you having to write those integrations, without you having to build them from scratch. That is the power of MCP. Of course, this is MCP is not um, adding new capability. It's just making it simple, easy, standardized. All of this was, of course, possible even before. But MCP is just making it a standard so that uh, everyone is doing it in the same way. Uh, we have been doing this for a long time, and even we had to build an equivalent of MCP, as a custom, you can say, uh, standard or protocol that allows agents to access external actions. That is what, in pure words, simple terms, MCP is. Now, with MCP, soon after the launch of MCP, we also had A2A, which is agent to agent protocol launched by Google. MCP was created by Anthropic, and that was primarily, you could say that, a way for Anthropic to give access to the developers to execute, connect to more external systems via the Claude's, you can say, desktop app or LLMs, and it became a standard that could be adopted by all the LLMs. So to understand MCP and A2A, let's take a simple example. So whenever we try to understand a complicated AI system from the business perspective, I always like to take this analogy of comparing them to how it would work in a world where AI does not exist. So let's say let's take an example of a shared services. So you would have experts on benefits or reimbursement or IT or payroll. These these will be typically agents or people that are looking at the tickets or raised by the people. So let's say as an employee, if I have a question about my payroll, I will probably raise a ticket. That ticket will go to a payroll person, payroll expert, and they will respond to that ticket. Now, I might very well just ask a query which requires benefits, reimbursement, and payroll, all of them. Now, the moment that query, let's say, in without AI, goes to a payroll agent, they will be able to see that this requires coordination with other departments as well, and they would probably just reassign the ticket to a different department. So reimbursement will be going to a different person. Similarly, payroll is going to be resolved by that person, and time and attendance is going to be resolved by another person. So these people that are expert in those systems, you can think of them like agents. They are expert in their domain, and they each and every agent, they come with their expertise. So let's say the payroll person is expert in dealing with the payroll system. They know about what impacts payroll, what are the typical problems of the people, and this is basically their skill. uh, so each and every person will come with some kind of skill, and the user who is submitting the query, that is the end user, and somebody is doing the job of identifying, dissecting that query and identifying that this query requires interaction with three different types of departments, right? And then they have to collaborate between each other for getting the user's query resolved. So if you were to compare this whole setup to MCP and A2A, you can think like the person who is getting the ticket and resolving everything else is someone like the MCP server. The agents are communicating with each other using a protocol which is similar to agent. So they are not conflicting with each other. MCP is helping, you can say that, us to realize what all skills are available, uh, and then leverage them to resolve the user query. And the agents, they collaborate with each other. They use the A2A language for collaborating with each other and passing information, um, and so on. Right. So MCP is clearly one agent can connect to many tools using MCP. And similarly for A2A, it's a horizontal capability that allows the agent to connect with other agents. Now, overall, what this looks like in practice is that this increases the utility of the agents by giving it more actions. Hence, it can resolve more and more of user query. And with collaboration, it will be capable of uh, stitching together responses and data from multiple different agents and resolve the user query. So overall, both of them combined increase the utility by a lot of big factor. You can also take an example of USB-C. Just like USB-C allows you to connect any peripheral to your computer using a standard port, MCP is giving that standard port. So you could connect any external system to your system using MCP. And then you could connect a mouse, you could connect a keyboard, you could connect anything with your USB-C. So similarly, the data is going to be different for mouse or keyboard or different peripheral. A2A is that standard which defines what kind of data should be transferred between agent to agent.
And hold on.
All right.
Question from the audience. How can A2A assist in onboarding operations, specifically in manpower services, where there's huge amount of data and documents required and generated during the process?
A very good question, because these things are very abstract, and until you tie it to an application, it's difficult to understand. So let's take this example. So there will be an ATS system, there will be an onboarding system, there will probably be a document management system where you are keeping these documents uploaded by the employees. Now, there could be various onboarding flows that could be created in this system, and they would span across, I would say, various systems. So you get the details of the person who is about to be onboarded, and then start sending them, let's say that 20 days before the onboarding, you're supposed to upload your identification documents. And those documents are going to go in, let's say, a different system. Now, if you have MCP and A2A both, you could have different agents that are created for different systems. And why I'm saying this is because this point will become evident in the later slides, that eventually the way this AI system is going to get evolved is that you will have agents that are specialized to do certain things. So you will have agents that are specialized to do handle payroll related queries. You will have agent that is specialized to handle a particular system. So you have one expert on Workday. So similarly, you will have these different isolated, I would say, intelligent agents that are expert in their domain, just like a setup we have in the organizations without AI today. You have people that are expert in doing their own task, and then they collaborate with each other to get the things done. So similarly, in this case, if you have agent which is specialized in dealing with, let's say, handling the document management system, you have an agent that is specialized in ATS. Without A2A, there is no standard protocol for them to share data between each other, right? So you will have to build custom. So let's say if so-and-so document has been uploaded or not, a very simple check like this will require you to create a static workflow where you probably call their API and use their details, and that's how the agent gets to know, the other agent gets to know that the user has moved forward, made progress in their onboarding process. Without, but with A2A and MCP, this agent knows that the other agent has the ability to expose this information without you building this workflow statically. That's very important. So this is all going to happen dynamically, where the agents can basically display their capabilities to the other agents and have them utilize to resolve a user query.
Thanks, Shannon. I'm getting a signal here that we should pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So that sounds very promising so far, how I have described MCP and A2A, but in reality, it's a very shiny tool. It came with a lot of promise, but it's just a standard and protocol. And adoption of any protocol or a standard depends on many factors, and definitely takes a lot of time. You look at USB-C, or you compare this with a protocol. It could be compared to a TCP/IP. The adoption of these protocols takes a lot of time, and specifically in this case, if we are talking about ability to execute more and more actions and tool calls, who is building them? So let's say that there is a MCP server for Workday, which exposes 50 different API calls or actions in the form of MCP. That's something that you can connect to your agent and start using. But who is going to build that? So that's the first roadblock, that somebody needs to go and build an MCP server for each and every different type of external system you need to connect to. Now, how was it happening before MCP? they were all exposed via APIs. And API is a standard contract. You ask for X, you get Y in the standard format, but that's not that's too rigid. And for a dynamic workflow, that requires a lot of work. So you let the agents figure out what should be the format so that it does not require too much effort for you while building this, right? So in case of MCP, somebody has to build them. And second most important point, that MCP and A2A, they are not specific to enterprise. They are there for consumers space as well as enterprise. So the protocol is built keeping that in mind. So it still lacks, I would suggest, very good authentication controls. Principal propagation being one of them, that you want the ability to safely forward identity of the user in the downstream system. And why is that important is because as a user, when I'm typing anything, or let's say I'm trying to access payroll data, you don't want the user to access something that they don't have access to. So that requires you to be able to identify solve just exactly this problem. But so far, the way it has been implemented, it makes a lot of sense for non-business scenarios, because as a user, if I want the AI agent to access my Google Calendar, it should definitely ask for my access. But as an enterprise user, I don't even know where I'm logging into. So let's say what that means is I'm accessing some agent where behind the scenes is using a different MCP server. The employee will be prompted to log in that against that MCP server that they might even not be aware of. Right. So both of these things combined are restricting the utility of MCP today. And practically in enterprise space, it's more of a, I would say, something on paper. It's complete waste as of now. But this is definitely better than each and every person building their own custom standard. So it's definitely something that you should be focusing on for future, because MCP and A2A, they both allow us to increase and access that untapped potential of LLMs. Now, why, but still, why are these things important? Because once you have MCP and A2A being widely adopted, we are talking about integration in hours, not months. The typical integration requires you to define APIs, define specifications, mappers, and then write custom logic on top of that. All of that will be gone with MCP. You write one MCP server, and that will connect to all the different kinds of AI systems. It improves the employee experience a lot, because without MCP and A2A, you may end up with, you can say, different pockets of AI brilliance, which could be a different HR bot, a different IT bot. And then it's up to the employee to figure out where they should be going and sending their query. With MCP and A2A integrated, the employee needs to go to just one interface, type their query. The system will know which other agent it should collaborate with because of MCP and A2A, which basically increases the utility of the whole system. And because it comes with a standard, it also prepares you for future changes, because then you don't have to be worried about how so-and-so system is changing their contract, because MCP is going to take care of that. So it's future-proofing your architecture and increasing the employee experience, but most of all, it's helping you realize the ROI as quickly as possible in hours, which is much better than the previous ROI of months. Now, because MCP and A2A, they are both relevant to a developer, to a business, as well as in the consumer space. It makes a lot of sense for the developers, because the developers can it gives the ability to the developers to quickly connect their development ecosystem to all the external tools. What that means is that as a developer, I can primarily connect. Let's say if I'm using IntelliJ to write any code that I have, I can quickly connect this LLM to a coding LLM, which is sitting external, because I could, using MCP, by the way. Uh, well, you could compare that with something like Cursor, but that will require you to download a specific application. But let's say if you are using a different application and you want to leverage LLMs on top of that, I am using IntelliJ to write code, and I want to use LLM's capability inside this. MCP is the answer. So if IntelliJ connects to MCP, is basically becomes the MCP client, and the LLM, which is sitting at the top, becomes the MCP server, and that's how it primarily works, right? So This opens a lot of possibilities for developers because they can use monitoring tools, they can use debugging tools, they can use AI assistants, security scanners, all from their single machine instead of having to go on different portals and interacting with different agents. But at the same time, the potential is still untapped for business because MCP utility is capped by someone having to write MCP server and MCP lacking enterprise grade authentication and security implementations, not the because protocol wise it's complete. It's the implementation that is going to take time. Last, I would like to show this example that clearly shows that on an average, an employee might require access to various systems for resolving their or for being productive in their day-to-day work. So in this example, Paul is a new employee and is asking if parental leave policy is paid or unpaid. And if it is unpaid, want to use rest of their paid time off. This requires the AI to consult the leave policy and then apply the time off in a different system. So it's interacting with SharePoint and it's interacting with Workday. The same employee might need specific software on their system for doing their work. It could be graphics driver, it could be Postman, it could be VS Code, it could be Adobe software, and they should not have to traditional ways that they raise a ticket and then somebody installs that. But if they have an AI agent, the same interface, the employee will just go to that interface and trigger the app installation without having to wait on anything else. So that increases the productivity of the employee. If the employee has a question about analytics, the same bot is going to respond to the questions by checking the data from their BI platform. And throughout the day, they interact with the same interface instead of interacting with different interfaces in the absence of these interoperability protocols. So now the floor is open to questions.
Yep. So let me share this one that just came in with you. What is the confidence? And we have exactly a minute to answer it. What is the confidence level on agentic AI efficiency, especially when external systems are dynamic?
That's an excellent question, I have to say. So the efficiency of agentic system is governed by the system being able to identify what action it should be taking, and then the efficiency of the system where the action is to be executed. Now, there could be 1,000 different actions, let's say, that are possible in SAP, or there could be 10 different actions. So if you have a lot of actions, the AI will have a hard time in recognizing and identifying the right action accurately. The same way as it works in a world where we don't have AI, right? So if you put too much information on any one person, they will not be able to follow SOP, right? So to solve that, basically, there are different ways to solve that. So it's not that the agentic AI system lacks the ability to handle this, but it's that you create abstraction in the form of agents, where you limit their scope. So you create one agent that is dealing with a specific domain and a specific system. Thereby, the agentic system has to first drill down if the query is related to, let's say, payroll, or if it's related to benefits, and that's how it can quickly increase the efficiency as well.
Thanks, Anand. Before we wrap, one quick question to the audience. If you can see on the next page, if you would like to explore interoperability further together, please click on yes. Otherwise, you can click on no, or check with me next week. We'll let folks a chance. We give folks a chance to answer. I know that we're at the bottom of the hour, so I want to thank everybody for joining us. Hopefully, this was informative and helpful and thought-provoking. And Anand, thanks a bunch for sharing your time and insights with us. We'll post this webinar so folks can enjoy it offline. And folks, feel free to follow our webinar channel as we produce more of these as part of our information series. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk again soon.